Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Perfect. We're starting the meeting. So I guess a great thing, if you guys don't mind doing this, if you go around in the circle and introduce yourselves, that would be great.
We're ready to start on in.
How about Laura? Yeah, however you want to do that.
Right there. Sure. My name is Laura Hubbard. I live here in Canby. I work here in Canby, so sorry. Yeah.
My name is Hannah Ellison. Live here in Canby, also on the planning commission.
Teresa Sassy. I live here in Canby.
Brian Hudson, I also live here in Canby. Jason Patton, I'm with the city council and I live in Canby.
Jason Hensley, council president, also live in Canby.
Daniel Godfrey, I'm a business owner here in Canby.
Eileen Stein, I work for the city of Canby.
I'm Jamie Sickle, Director of Economic Development for the city of Canby.
Jerry Nelson, Canby Public Works Director.
Perfect. And Brianna on Zoom. Nice to see you.
Hi. I actually can't see you guys.
Is there? Sorry about that. I've got the video working, at least it's assumed. We can see you perfectly, so I don't know what's going on.
You might need a different. Pull up the little arrow next to the video.
So sorry. Oh, yeah, there we go. Thank you.
There's only.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, Brianna. I don't know why it's not working. Maybe maybe if we moved it.
No,
Still
it's plugged
nothing?
in.
That's all lit up too.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's gonna be something I'm gonna work on tomorrow. So we'll get to see you, but you unfortunately don't get to see us, so I apologize.
All right. I just want you to know it's recording, and you probably won't be able to see you guys on the recording either. But you'll see me.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, thank you for that.
All right.
IT is down here, have this whole.
Yeah, yeah, unfortunately, it's just one of those fortunate things. I don't know why it is not. Got share.
No, it's gotta be the, oh, that's right, it's gotta be the something.
Yeah. You are so right.
Is that gonna be a problem if we can only hear it for the recording?
I mean, it'll be okay. I also have the slideshow in my email. Sometimes did IT upgrade yours, because sometimes there's a screen on the wall that you have to shift the inputs?
Yeah, I don't.
They were down here and said this thing was
Yeah,
all working
dialed
good,
in.
so.
So I guess it's something, yeah, I'll work on it again tomorrow. Figure out what's going on, but yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to listen to voices and stuff, but. Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
All right.
So. You wanna start that stuff with,
Well, yeah, I guess the meeting's been called to order. We've done introductions. And so I think the first order of business is, you guys correct me, I'm not the best at running meetings, is we talked about appointing a chairperson for this meeting. So I guess, do you want to have a conversation about that? Does someone want to nominate or anyone want to volunteer to be our chairperson for the street maintenance task force?
I've got zero experience in the matter, but if no one will do it, I'm happy to figure my way out through it, but I'll leave that up to everybody else.
Okay.
I could go in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to waste a bunch of time on this, so, you
Okay.
know what I'm saying?
So just
Is that
two?
you or the
I'm just here to facilitate.
Are you
right?
interested, Danny, in doing it?
I mean, sure. If you guys want, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, do we want to take a vote? We got 3 people interested
I take it down to 2.
to take
I
your.
was just
you were just,
placeholder.
there
Yeah.
you
I'll let Teresa do it. She's the local.
Oh, there you go.
go.
So we're okay, everyone's.
Laura, are you interested in doing this?
Should we put it to a yay or nay situation
Yep, how many,
for
For
Teresa?
Teresa?
Yay.
Yay.
Great.
how many nay?
Teresa
So-
can't vote nay for herself.
Okay,
All right, Madam Chair. Now you get to run the meeting.
I was gonna say, no.
Oh, does that mean I have to run the
Yep.
meeting?
Yeah.
Like a brother and a now.
okay, do you have the agenda?
Have the
there,
agenda.
Seth, or-
So has any, are you gonna take care of the meeting? Okay.
Well, what we're gonna do is let you go through the minutes,
Okay.
and so you can go to,
This was happening.
Brian will walk you through this.
Okay, what I'd like to ask first is, has everybody had a chance to read through the minutes?
Yes.
Do you have any changes, any errors? I did see one thing. Can I bring this up?
Please.
Under Finance Department Data Collection, how do we receive a surcharge? Can we take will out of there?
There, I saw that typo today.
Oh, perfect. Nope, I like it.
Did anybody else see anything that needs to be changed? Or added? Okay, so then I would ask for an approval of the minutes from our last meeting, June 3rd.
So moved.
I
You need a second, I have to abstain, but
asked, is there a second?
Second.
there we go.
Okay,
Oh,
all those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Anybody opposed?
Any abstentions?
Okay. Everyone has that. Okay. Okay, so citizen input. Is that where we're at right now?
And I don't believe there's anyone on Zoom for citizen input.
Didn't sound like it.
Never years.
So we'll move on to discussion then. Okay. Gary, you want to take this?
Yeah. So we had our meeting and we, Ron and I watched the video again and we came up with the minutes from the last meeting. I take it you guys all had, since we probably had a chance to discuss it. There was questions asked for our finance department. And I think this would be a good time if we wanted to go over those real quick, if that's a good place to start. Eileen and I met with the finance director today. And it's on the last page where you saw the typo. And I know there was a lot of questions about what we wanted to do on questions on funding and stuff like that. So starting with number one, everyone's with me. How will we receive a surcharge? How would we receive a surcharge for the Clackamas County Fair tickets? And we kind of looked at these and we went through and we combined that one with number three, and I believe there was another one that kind of fell into there, which was, well, we get to that one. So 1 and 3 were kind of combined. And what we kind of talked about was looking into that. That's a whole different, I guess the word would be beast to take on going that direction. So that would be going through, I know Tracy was going to look into that. Do you want to go, Tracy, on what you
I
found?
can just offer that I did speak with Commissioner Thomas, and it's not actually their jurisdiction. It would be the Fair Board, they have autonomy over their budget. They just submit it to the county commissioners by state law requirements. Other than that, they're their own governing body over their own budget. But he did say he was going to talk to Gary Schmidt, the Clackamas County Administrator, and see if that is something that could even be entertained, if he could get back to me or have Gary get in touch with Eileen. So it's already being looked at, but it didn't sound promising. Let's just put it out there.
And where we kind of were with that was exactly what you're saying, Tracy, is if that's something that we wanted to pursue, that's something that would have to go through a whole process and everything
Yes.
else, and we would keep looking into that. So
Yeah.
after maybe we bring this up again, if it's something you want staff to continue to look into.
Is that applicable for 1 and 3 or just the
Yeah.
Clackamas County?
All events to the fairgrounds are under the purview of the fair board.
Yeah, number 2, what will it take to increase fees for a business license? Pretty simple, we changed the we changed the master fee schedule, take it to council for adoption. Pretty simple, if we
I think-
decided we wanted to add,
Did somebody look in to see how long it's been since those licenses have been increased? It's been years.
yeah, I don't think it's been since I've worked here, I don't know. it's been
I
50 bucks
probably
forever.
agree because
Yeah.
20, it's been 20 years plus.
So-
It's been $50 as long as I've been on council.
Yeah.
So
So,
we changed the master fee schedule to take up for inflation and stuff like that. We just never have looked at business licenses for paving, anything like that, so. So that's something that would just be something to take forward if you decided to make a recommendation to council. Number 4, how much would each department, cat, police, fleet, parks, public works need to pay for the street maintenance program? That there, we talked about quite a bit. Like, it just turns into, especially like, most of those listed there are general fund. And so all that's gonna do is take away from public safety and our parks department. It can be done if that's what you guys wanna do, but it's just gonna hurt the other departments. And CAT has its own struggles.
Yeah, I think
So
that should
But-
be Xed out of there, but everybody else should agree on that.
it's a good question.
It is.
You know.
It's a great question.
So number 5, are there any grants available to fund the street maintenance program? And there has been, and we have applied for a federal fund exchange money for that. And if any more come open, we will look into them, but we don't have a grants writer that's just out looking for grants. But if we see anything, we're gonna do that. And we get 600,000 or something like that federal fund coming in every year that we do projects with and paving and stuff like that. So, so good question there. 6, increasing fees for the businesses in Canby.
That's kind of number 2.
I was gonna say, that sounds.
It's kind of because with that meeting, we had a lot of stuff and it was hard to hear, so it might have just been doubled up there. So I
Okay.
think we answered that with number 2, with the business licenses through the council process. Number 7, can we increase the fee by the PCI percentage? Absolutely. That's what we're here to do if we want to, or you guys are here to do if you want to. Gas tax increase, how is it paid, quarterly, monthly, annually? How much would we need to increase it by? Does it need to go through the voting process? Yes, it has to go through the voting process. Jason and Brian are really up, and Tracy are really up on that. We have a copy of what the cities, if anyone wants copies, I can pass this around, give it to our finance director, and it shows what the cities are paying. It's interesting. And you want to see that?
Yeah.
So that there would be, I believe, would go in, if we wanted to do that, I think it's a great idea. I think we need to do it. And look into that in a council goal. Go through the whole process, go through the voters, and because right now you look, we're paying 3 cents. And Jason, you are really up on this, aren't you?
As far as what?
Like, what the 3 cents, how much do you know how much that brings back to us by chance?
It's the full percentage.
It
So
goes through ODOT, and then we get that 3% of whatever. So I don't know the exact number right now that comes in, but
It's 3 cents.
yeah, so it's not 3%, it's 3
3
cents
cents
a gallon.
and that's what.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you'll look, Astoria has 3 cents, another one's 3 cents, and then
Portland is 10 cents.
10 cents, yeah. And so that there, you guys, would be another one to go through if we make a recommendation to our council.
Once a year.
Is it done monthly, quarterly, or yearly?
Yeah, so you figure that out?
Yeah.
On what?
On
that
that.
comes
Yeah.
back to you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did we ask Eric on that, how often we were paid on that? Or Ms. Scott? Is it quarterly?
No, we didn't.
I think I forgot to check on that, what that was paid. So I'll
I
have to
think
read
it's yearly,
I
but
think it's yearly.
yearly, that's,
that's a
I'll be
lot.
glad to.
Just don't, I'm thinking so too.
and the thing is on that too, is I do my paving yearly, so I don't really know on when it's coming in, we're not jumping around, so we'll follow up on that.
Is,
for you guys.
Is the question how often is the,
How often does the state pay us the distribution of the taxes? Yeah.
So, sorry, I missed that one today. Okay, we'll get back to you guys on that one. Can we bond for the increase for the street maintenance program and then do a annual inflationary cost? Yes. You could do that. That could be a recommendation if you wanted to do that. Another bond, another thing that would have to go through the process. It takes time. Yeah, the voting process would be tax voters. So anyways, those are kind of our answers to the questions. Does that, do any of you have any more questions for us on that? Okay.
and maybe we ask that question again at the end of the meeting if there's any.
More after.
Yeah.
So if you guys want next, jump in here if I missed anything, or if you want to talk about anything else, we could go quickly back through the presentation on where we left off. And I'm trying to figure out where we left off on this. We were close, I recall you guys were close to having a recommendation of like just doing an inflation based. It's kind of where we're at. And then we went a different direction on that. So, but you wanted answers back on this question before we talk about it. So we can go through this PowerPoint again real quick, if that would help everyone, just to refresh their memories on where we're at. So,
I'm gonna do that.
sure.
If you all would like, I could share it. And then it would be recorded for posterity, and you also wouldn't just be looking at my face.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Can you see what I have up on sharing? Because I've got, wow.
No, not seeing anything. Let me see. Full screen.
Now, I sent that out to everybody, around, what was that, between 4 and 5 this evening. So you should have it on your computer, or through the email I sent today.
Yes.
Forward it to you again.
Here.
Yeah.
If she's gonna share, you need to end your sharing. Or are you sharing currently?
In just 1 second.
One participant can share at a time. I put multiple participants can share.
There we go.
Can you see that?
There we go.
Yeah, so just let me know verbally when you want me to shift.
Okay. There you go.
Okay, this is just a little history. I don't know if you guys all read this. When this was established, there was a few of these counselors around when this happened. There was a lot of work to get it through. And basically, just long story short, this street maintenance street background is this pavement to do work between the curbs. That's it. We don't do any concrete work, all that, anything, just blacktop. So, and it's at the end, it says between the curbs. So just for blacktop. Okay, next, please. This goes into the residential fees. I think we all talked about this last meeting. We're pretty much squared away on, we know what everyone's paying. We had a lot of conversation on different businesses, what they paid, everything else on that. So multi-family, detached living, all that. This is kind of the numbers that broken down a little further than the $5 a month we just go off of. Okay, next, the rates on resident fees. This is the calculation they use, and where this what this establishes, it comes out to be $5. The break, all the breakdowns of it. So next, this here is the we had a survey done on our roads in 2018, and this is what we came up with. And the citywide average was 75, is what the index came of scanning all our streets. The industry recommends 84. We are at a 75 and declining. And you can see over on the left, excellent, good, fair, and poor. That lays out where we're at. This is kind of what I wanted to get into. Does everyone understand this portion? Okay. So, yeah, and we can go back to any of these slides if you have any questions. So if you go to the next one, Brianna, please. This is the, I think you did this one. Did you have this one? Centerline miles paved annually, and you'll see in there how much we've done every year. You'll see how it's been declining. This really varies too a lot on oil prices, on how much oil prices really affect how much we get paid. And so, and you'll see a couple of years in there where we haven't paid to build up our reserves. So we like to do about $1 million paving. We get a better breakdown of price on it. Next. And then this here is where I think we got talking about the inflationary increases. All of you know that we have a parks maintenance fee that is got this inflation index tied to it, and it just goes up every year. We do not have that on street maintenance. It's stuck at $5. And so this shows.
That's 2009, okay, to the left, correct?
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was showing if back in the beginning it had been tied to inflation, we would currently be getting $6.90.
Thanks, Jason. Which you'll see in the next slide where I think the next one. This one here, Jason, why did we do this one?
This was to show if,
Oh, yeah. my
Yeah.
fault.
so this is revenue that we have foregone by not having it tied to inflation.
By not doing the inflation rate on that. So if we would have done like we did with the parks maintenance fee, this is what we would have had in there. So next slide, please. This here is to maintain our current, you'll see the highlight, the $5, it shows what we're paving a year, where the PCI is after 5 years, see how it drops us to a 72. To maintain what we got now, we would need to raise it to 746. And that gets us to 0.2 miles.
These are older numbers though.
They are older numbers because we haven't done it. We've been waiting so long to do this. We've kind of got behind. But as we know, inflation is, it's just going to be more and more. So to maintain it where we're at with to these states numbers, we'd have to raise it to 7.46. So, and then you see to raise it to go above 5 points, you'd have to jump it up to $13, which is a huge jump. So anyways, this is just to give you guys kind of something to wrap your mind around again of what we would need to do just to maintain what we got now. I don't remember what I guess we go to the next slide. And then this is the options that were presented to council on April 20th of 2022. And you can see that we had quite a few options. And did we take that to council, Jamie? Was that you and I? Yeah. And so chime in here on this, it's better to find. But this is the options we presented to council, and so we're kind of presenting them to you now. So if you have any questions about any of these, please ask.
So do you want a recommendation?
What we want to get from this meeting is a recommendation that we can take to the city council.
Okay, so with that being said, would this be the time I should bring up? Okay, so are you both the liaison from?
Councilor Patton and Councilor Hensley are here as liaisons for our city council. So they're here for questions and if you have anything, because they've both been around a long time. And Jason especially is here, not to take anything away from you, Councilor Hensley, but he was involved in the very creating this thing back in 2008, I think you said. So he has got so much information on this.
Okay.
It's overwhelming.
So if we're gonna come up with the recommendation for the council.
Yes.
How, can we do that with them here?
Well, no,
I mean,
you guys, yeah, you can do that with
Okay.
here, and you can brainstorm, and you can talk, and you can ask them questions.
okay, so
but-
there's no conflict of.
I'm not voting on any recommendation.
No, okay.
That's for you guys to decide what you're bringing to us.
Okay, so you guys will already be aware when we bring the recommendation to the council as a whole.
Yeah, because
So-
we as counselors get the final crack at this.
Right,
So.
so you're
this
gonna already
is-
have an insight.
Correct.
And their insight might too help us with what would pass and what would, because they have the temperature of the
Okay.
council, so.
Okay, so no conflict of it, okay.
But thank you for asking that, though.
That the liaisonship, that's just, if our colleagues have questions, whether clarify something in your presentation, then we can recollect the conversation around that piece and relay that to them.
So you just understand, spending a lot of time on this and then coming up with it, bringing it to you, you're gonna be aware already, and so we don't wanna go backwards, is what I'm saying.
At the time of proposal, do you have a certain amount of time that you think about it, or do you make a decision right then and there?
It depends on the issue. We've been known to noodle it to the next meeting, but it'll,
Generally,
it'll probably depend on how staff brings it to us too.
And
Yeah, my guess will be, it depends on, I mean, if you all whittle this down and say, we can't agree but on these three things, then maybe that then becomes a work session for the council, and we may do that anyways, to kind of weed it down to, one of the options to bring back as a voted upon or direction to go with it.
So this is already 2 years old.
Right.
Okay, so we're already, me just throwing it out there on the top of my head, I'm thinking $8 right now in my head.
Can we go back to the chart where it showed, where we would need to be?
$7.46 to maintain.
Because we're way behind already.
It goes up to 13.
Brianna, can you go back a slide? That one there?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm in favor of the 1343, and I just did the math. It's 161.16 per household a year. It's nothing. That's not that much money in today's.
I would be fine with that too. I mean, really, I think we're so far behind that,
$13 a month. I think it's reasonable.
But then, what about after that then? Are you still gonna go with the annual increase?
Yeah.
Teresa, when people have questions,
Oh,
you call,
sorry.
just so you know, yes.
it's gonna take a couple meetings to get me straightened out.
Well, and I do.
Mr. Patton?
Yeah, so I would just say, I think what the goal was, like, if it's a 13% increase on houses, then it would be a similar percent increase. If it's up to $13 per house, then it would be a certain percentage across the board. So then that 52 cents or whatever per trip, whatever, the businesses. So if it's like 38% increase, then that would be the increase that would also apply to across the whole program, because it's based on a percentage of trips. And that's how it came to the $5. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Because if it's an increase, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Okay,
No, go ahead.
If you're increasing residential, you're also increasing, like your business would be increased that much as well.
Yeah.
So it'd be a, I don't know,
And I
for
believe,
$5, that's over.
Westland is at that.
1343.
Just to give you an idea, cities have jumped that much.
They write it
I think,
at one time now.
Yeah, counselors, just to keep going, Counselor Pat and I's worried when we were talking about this early, is if we jump it too much, council gets pressure and it gets voted down and we don't get anything. I think that was kind of, we wanted to make sure we were responsible moving on.
That was a concern that I had.
So, but they are gonna listen to this group's recommendation.
So what if we did something, kind of meet in the middle a little bit and jump it up to 10 for, X amount of time, and then jump on the inflationary, the increase over time, to try to make up some of that cost without just, instantly almost doubling it. And then,
Well,
10
it's
is
currently 5, so it's over double.
oh, I'm looking at the
Yeah.
746.
And it's been five for how long?
For
17
17
years.
Like, what if we,
And that's the question.
there's like a step up and then we adjust to the inflationary cost schedule, whatever you want to
The
call it.
problem with that is that we're never gonna catch up if we don't do it now. We have to
That's right.
catch up.
Yeah.
We've been behind and we're just gonna continue to play catch up if we don't do it now. Again, I come back, 1343 is not that unreasonable. So I think most households would have the money to pay for that.
I know for sure my household could do it, but I just, I think about the other folks out there that are a little bit more strapped for cash, and that, although it doesn't seem like a big increase to me at all, and I know we make it work just fine. Thinking about folks out there that is a stretch, like even buying an extra, jug of milk is a stretch, is the only thing that sticks in my head. Because in my mind, I'd love to jump to that 1343 because I'm problem solved, right? And I know that speaking for myself, I can cover that. But I get a little concerned for the other folks out there that are really like penny to penny, paycheck to paycheck.
That's what I'm saying. So 101, 16 a year extra per household a year.
Isn't that bad?
Sorry, what was it?
What's the percentage? $101.16 extra per year per household.
Extra,
Extra.
total of 160.
Yes.
I did, Counselor Patton had an interesting idea that if you want to share that too for.
Yeah, I mean, if folks are interested.
Yeah, he had we talked about, he had an idea that might not be as aggressive and might be more, so that if you guys wanted to hear it.
So in trying to thread this needle, I've thought about many different ways of doing it. And one of them was to try to spread the burden over a period of time, but lock it in to the recommendation to council. So whether it's a recommendation to be, take the difference of 13 or whatever you want to get to, and then say over the next X number of years, increase by this amount, also also add on a 3% increase to tie it to inflation, so that over the course of a few years, you get to where you want to be. So that way it's not such a hit all at once. We looked at some modeling where instead of doing it by a dollar amount, do it by a percentage increase over 5 or some odd years, where it's a 10% increase. It's essentially a 13% increase annually for 5 years or 5 or however many years, and then after that it drops down to inflationary mechanism. So there's different ways of getting, if there's concern about doing it all in one chunk, there are ways of splitting it up over time, but still building in that inflationary mechanism to get you to make up the lost revenue. Well, not, we're never gonna make up the lost revenue, but at least get you to where you wanna be after that period of time.
Which we discussed that last week.
We did, yes, that was a long conversation.
Very long.
So those are that's kind of your options that we have, and the options that we presented in the work session to council several years ago. And so,
Which obviously stated number one.
Yeah.
We're on the wrong.
should we move that back to that one?
And also
Okay.
just, I don't know that one. So it takes like, isn't it $1 million for 1 mile of road?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
If I may, I want to say one of the things that I thought was great that this group thought up last time was diversifying the mechanisms to capture this revenue. So do we increase, is a recommendation increase this, but also to tack on something for business licenses, which is dedicated to streets? Is it something where, for every ticket Canby PD writes, there's a certain fee or whatever that goes towards street maintenance, and start to spread that burden over a larger number of people? Those ideas I thought were really good.
I want to add to that. One of our budget committee persons said it, and then Don Hardy in our last leadership team meeting called it out. Gas in Canby is cheap. It's cheaper than everywhere. What did he say? 40 cents a gallon less than wherever he's from. And so, doing something like this and then making it a council goal to maybe raise it up a couple cents on the gallon. I want to spend more time on looking what that gets us. I don't know how many gallons it gets.
I'm looking at the budget, I'm trying to find it, it's not actually parceled out, it's just a state revenue sharing, unfortunately, it doesn't list the gas tax separately.
Yeah.
I mean, even 1 penny a gallon more would increase that fund significantly and capture dollars from people who are visiting and using the roads. To the point of it's $100 per household, doesn't sound like a lot to some, but for some, that's a week's worth of groceries out of the year. So I really don't wanna see that increase that week all at once.
And the gas, the fuel stations, that's catching people coming to Fairfax, coming to,
Yeah, right.
you know, but that's beyond us. I mean, we'd have to make a recommendation to council to.
Brian has a question.
Yeah, so I guess my question was along those lines. So here we are, we're talking about just the household piece. But what about, we looked at what is the revenue generated by going from a 3-cent gas tax to a 5-cent, or that tying that inflationary, which is a little bit harder to do because you're dealing with state trying to regulate that and all that kind of stuff. But I think to Jason's point about there's quite a couple of different mechanisms that can be put in place. You can't, I don't think us getting there purely by putting it on all on single, on households and putting it all on businesses. I think we gotta figure out something. I want to say peanut butter across all of the bread, but maybe there are areas of the peanut butter that are a little bit thicker than the others. We're just gonna figure out. I think that's one way to look at. When you make a peanut butter sandwich,
I
the
know.
peanut butter is thicker in the middle.
I'm just thinking there's
than
start bringing Reese's over here and you're gonna keep
Yeah.
talking peanut butter.
So yeah, just kind of thinking about what does that look like at a minimum?
Yeah.
Something
We're
we're
talking
talking
about
about
peanut butter
paper
on there,
company.
just having it split up between gas, so it's not all in the household. And the gas tax that I do, you're touching the folks that are enjoying the town, if they want to continue to enjoy it, right, it's nice to benefit from that a little bit.
Yep. So with that being said, you're talking about increasing to 1343. Plus, if I live here in town, and I fill up, based on my drive to Beaverton every day, I'm filling up every week and a half. So I'm paying that gas tax on top of,
Yeah.
because I try to buy as much in Cambridge as I can, because I know where it's going, but, so it's really, so per household, it's not just that $100, it's the bump at the gas pump as well.
You're saying if we do the gas,
If we adjust the gas tax as well,
yeah, but we wouldn't do the 1343 and the gas tax.
I guess that's what I'm asking, is this group looking at just the one increase, or are we looking at?
I think it's our
Presenting a whole blanket
if we
to the
do a
council.
blended approach, it would be less than the 1343, right? So,
Yeah.
but there would still be two taxes.
I might have a different approach. We could take it I think the question is what do we want our PCI to be at? The first question, could we decide that?
I think we gotta get to 1343.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
I would-
80 or better.
Up to, we want to be at good,
yes,
Yeah,
this group,
yes.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to be an excellent, but
I think we should shoot for that.
yeah,
so what's that cost us again?
1340.
1343 would be that 5.8.
Okay, so how do we get to 1343 without backing our households or businesses? Is this,
Can I add a sort of second question to that, is over what period of time? Because I don't think it's realistic to immediately jump there. Are we talking, do we want to see it get to good overall over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? So just a thought, because I think that's going to be the other component that you're kind of battling up against. It's one is going to be policy, what you choose to do, and the other is going to be time frame to get to where you want to go.
good input, Brianna, that makes sense.
So but why is it realistic? I mean, I don't understand why everyone's concerned about making the jump to 1343. If we're talking about $1,
I'm at $13 a house.
yeah, 1343 a household. Typically with 2 incomes coming in, that's nothing to get us on par with what industry standards.
And that's
should
still
be.
behind.
And that's still behind. I think we should focus more on the dollar amount versus the percentage that we're increasing it to. And if we want to do a blended approach, then my recommendation, or I'd be in favor of a business increase, because I know
Business license
business
increase.
license increase, don't do the tax with
I would-
ODOT because I think it's gonna be too complicated. Who's gonna police that? And then we can do a smaller percentage of the PCI.
Business license increase should happen.
Cause there's,
In my mind,
Yeah.
what'd you say, 600, 700 businesses? And
Roughly.
I mean, if we
Yeah.
increase it to say $150, which is pretty normal, and we're at $50 right now. So that's a $100 increase per business. That's gonna generate a lot of income.
And it's there's one level of business license.
Right.
There's not two.
Yeah.
There's one.
I thought since you say 700 as I.
So what's the math on it? 750 times 150 is what?
That's gonna be a huge increase.
Nice.
The-
Yeah, I got
the 200%.
150
It's $105,000
a year.
a year.
Yeah.
That's gonna help a lot,
750 businesses.
Jerry.
Because right now it brings in about $35,000 a year. What
That's-
do you want me to do, 750
No,
businesses?
what was the number?
That was 700 businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do we know what? Cause I was reading through the notes and I think that was part of it as well, right? Like, the businesses pay a different road maintenance fee amount based on trips. Okay, so, is that part of this conversation as well, increasing that aspect of it as well? And so houses we're looking at, households, so what about like Columbia, and are we looking at increasing theirs as well? So we're gonna hit that.
I think that makes really good sense for those big businesses, but then I think about just the little guys and how they barely made it through COVID and everything, and I just struggle to think about how that's gonna hit them.
This is where we got lost last time.
Yeah.
We started digging into all that and how it's gonna affect them, and we really got out in the weeds. So, I think that if we go off the exact projections they're doing now across the board, housing goes up, businesses go up.
Yeah.
And that could be something that we bring back, like, take a table that says, you know, I think this is what we were working on previously, Jer, is that like a single family household would be this much per month. Right now it's $5, and then all the way down, and then kind of increase that to show what a small business might look like in the downtown. We could pick, you know, 1 or 2 small businesses just in the downtown, and maybe 2 on Highway 99 and a couple in the industrial park. And then show if there was an increase, let's say, we talk about households because I think it's kind of easy, but I think for the most part, when this conversation is happening, it feels to me that we're talking about increasing the street maintenance fee kind of across the board. So if we then said at $746 per household, single family household, this is what it would be for that same business, so that you could see what that looked like.
That would be
Because,
great, yeah.
you know, it might not change anybody's mind, but it might be good information to kind of review.
You've got, just on the business sense, you've got these little artisans that sell their jewelry someplace, they have to have a business license to do that. $150, just thinking about those women that make, and then I think 150 is a lot for them. 50 is reasonable, but I think still, since I think $100 would be reasonable.
It's doubling it in one fell swoop.
And I think, but for me and you and Columbia, $150 for a business
Big deal.
license, that's not a big, I mean, $50 is great for me.
Yeah.
But realistically, $150 is, so I don't know how you would divide out those little guys, those little artisan people.
An artisan that, for instance, that goes to like the 4th of July event or even the farmer's market does not actually need a business license
Okay.
fee. If they are doing kind of handcrafted arts and craft type activities, there's a certain amount of I'm gonna say like showing. So like if there's, let's say typically 30 weeks of the farmer's market, it might be at 31 is when it tips the scales. It's not to say that some of them don't have business licenses, because it does help to legitimize business, but I don't know how the business license is run through administration. So
I think I just did business license and I was on my banter last meeting. I think they need to be raised. I just think that's something that should go in front of the council.
Even if 150 is your goal, I would suggest stepping to 50 at a time, not going from 50 to 150 in the 1 year time. That freaks people out. It'll
And I would
come across
say-
as we're not business.
I would say when the letters are given out to the businesses, you know, when mine comes due, I would have just a little letter in there saying it has been 30+ years since this has been raised, and this is, you know, in order to keep up with what's the inflation and everything. I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna squabble about it at all, as long as there's an explanation.
Teresa Sassy said that she wants to pay more and wants everybody to, that's direct quote.
Yeah, don't put my name in it.
Question,
Yes.
I mean, the $50 business license fee, what does that go to?
That is a good question, I don't know.
I'm sure there's some sort of staff overhead that's got,
For 35,000 a
It's
year.
just in the general fund.
Is it in the general fund?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it's just, if it's just in the general fund, it's not applied to anything. But it's just a revenue source for the general fund, so it's a good point, if you would be taking it out of the general fund as a revenue source if you were putting it in the street fund. So,
right, so 50 stays with the city, but then 150 ends up
100.
or 100 ends
Sorry,
up in the
100.
street fund.
going to the
Yeah, so
street
you
fund, so
need
it's
to
not
think
really the
about-
full 150.
Right, you need to think about that split as well.
I found a local gas tax. At the 3% we're collecting, they, 3 cents per gallon, right, not 3%, 3 cents per gallon. We have 425,000 in the budget. The actual for 2023 was 404,000. And change. So if we increase that by a penny or two a gallon,
So we're already collecting 3%.
3 cents per gallon.
It's already in place.
Which brings in
That's
400.
already in place. So it's not a mechanism we have to start, we just increase the cents per gallon,
That's, you said 400,000.
400,000
That's roughly
at 3
14.
cents.
That will take a vote.
Right, they'd have to go to a vote of people. We can't just decide that, but we could put it out.
Wait,
5 cents.
I thought it was put in by the council to begin with.
You sure?
The council, from what I remember of the previous conversation, the council can initiate the gas tax for the first go, but once it is established, then it can only be increased through a vote of the populace. I think is what was
State law
determined.
changed several years ago.
Personally, I'd love to see the gap, to have it,
She doesn't
3 cents to 5 cents and have the number per household go up to right around 10. And then attached to the, whatever inflationary schedule.
For the
And-
business license.
Yeah, over, the next couple, I would say no more than 5 years, because at that point, then you're not, we're just digging a little further and further and further, but, that way you're spreading the love a little bit, it's not just hitting, all in one fell swoop.
It's reasonable.
Jerry, what's our goal again, $1 million, is what we're trying to get a
The
year?
actual for 23 was 404, 253.
That's $1 million keeps us at a 75 at those prices, those fixed prices. So,
So at 80, how much, that's
Which
1.8.
is which we're
Yeah.
getting $1 million now,
Yeah.
between
we-
That's-
rate,
that's-
gas tax and
basically,
maintenance fee.
we're raising it to 746, just keeps us at a 75. Just keeps us where we're at. The roads, where the roads are today, keeps them at that, if we don't build any more roads.
So quick math. 404 divided by 3 cents comes out to about 13.5 million gallons of gas. That multiplied by 0.05, we take it to 5 cents. That'll take us to 600, and we'll say it's roughly 675,000 a year.
So it increases by 270,000.
Correct.
I'd say
Plus the additional household dollar amount.
plus business.
Yeah,
Which-
so
and-
3
and
days.
what- So what are you using for household? number then?
In my head, just $10 to double it from where it's currently at, I feel like that's a little bit more.
10 and
But
make
still
it
big ask at
inflation
one
based?
time.
Yeah,
Okay,
correct, yes, sorry.
All in one fell swoop, like 10, like rip the Band-Aid off.
I'm a rip the Band-Aid off type of gal, but it's, that's my opinion.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna state, because at our last meeting, we talked about like just bumping it up a certain dollar amount for the rest of this year, and then saying moving forward, we're gonna do the inflation percentage after that. I still think we should do it like in a, like you're saying, okay, well, kind of, ish,
Kind of,
in a step process, not just be like, we're taking it from $5 to $13.43.
Yeah.
Because most people that do basic math, 50% increase is $10.
Yeah.
And I think we discussed even with business owners, which I don't know, do you know how much you pay for street maintenance on your city of Camden? Because we asked him that last year, or last meeting, and he didn't come to either, so it just depends on what that is, I'm sure it's,
Yeah, it's not.
well, I thought it went by how many employees and all that stuff.
It's not by employee, it's by trips,
It's on
and
here.
the trips are designated per business in kind of very interesting ways. So, a distribution, warehouse distribution kind of business, some retail, but I think that it really spans,
There's,
So
we have
define
we didn't have any,
trips.
we didn't have
Define
dollar
trips.
amounts last
it'll
time.
be, is it right here? So non-residential fees, the street maintenance fee shall be calculated by multiplying the number of units set by the category of use by the trip rate per unit for assigned category of use, and then the monthly per trip charge.
That's listed for apartments.
Yeah, so for businesses, the way the trip calculation is done is based on the square footage of the business. It's based on the square footage of the parking lot. It also goes into that calculation, the nature of the business, if memory serves me correctly. It's super complex.
I mean,
It
that's
is
why we're
very
asking Matt,
complex.
because, obviously, that's produce, he has so many trucks going in and out, plus a certain amount, he has quite a few employees as well, so we're kind of curious as to what the base. And then also just to see what the percentage of the increase is gonna be, because that's what we're told bids also.
She's gonna try to pull it up. We don't have it.
Oh.
The trip, what Jason's.
Jason,
So I have a crazy thing I would just like to share with folks to mull over. Okay? Now, sorry, Brianna, you're not gonna be able to see this. So if you wanna split this up over time, let's say 3 years. Starting at 5. If you did a 45% increase over 3 years, it would jump from 5 to 725. It would then jump to 1051, and then 1524. And then after that, it goes to 3%. This would capture everything that you want, including an inflationary mechanism each year.
you're talking about 725 now, next year 10,
It would be
57.
725
Next
this
year.
coming year,
2025.
then 1075 the year after that. So each year it would get a 45% increase over 3 years.
I don't think that's
And then go
enough,
to 3%.
And that would get
because we're
you,
already behind,
that would get you to 1524
which is more
in
than
year
the
3,
13.
which is more than the third. Because what I did is I calculated, if you take if we jump to 13, if we take 13, I said 1350, and we add a 13% or 3% inflation, which is what normally the city targets, it would jump to 1390 this second year. Plus 3% would jump to 1432. And then it would jump to 1475. So if you set it at 1343 for next year and then do the 3%, you'd actually, in 3 years, you would actually only be at 1475. If you did 45 and then set it at 3, you'd be a bit more than
Okay,
what you're
Jason, tell
targeting.
me what 55% would do the first year, instead of 725.
Or why didn't we take it to 746?
So,
50% would be 750.
yeah, I did, where was that? Well, so one thing If you want to see other numbers, I'm happy to crank them out here real quick.
How'd you choose 45%?
Because I took, if the group was targeting 1343, I just rounded it to 1350, and then did 3 years worth of increases of inflationary increases on that to come to what the target number was, and then started to figure out what sort of percentage would need to be each year to get close to what you were looking for.
Which I think is more reasonable to go a little higher.
Very.
What if, what if you did Jason's recommendation and asked council to make it a council goal to try to raise what Brian was talking about for the fuel in Canby to 5 cents? That takes it to 675,000.
And then plus also the business
That's-
license.
I don't know.
If we did the other two things, I'm more likely to agree with this. But you gotta have some other to get you back up to where we need to be.
Realistically, when are we wanting to propose this to the city council? And then how long will it take to go?
I would like to give them a recommendation as soon as possible.
I agree.
Like, let them start getting to us, then they can tell us what they need from us
Okay.
for more, because it's gonna be work sessions like Brian said, and stuff like that, so they'll feel comfortable voting.
Because last time we talked about just jumping to like 746 and then moving forward in 2025, but that was like an immediate thing.
And in all real,
And then we discussed like people pay one-time donations to try and get us up to.
Yeah,
Or would
with-
like to get us up to at a certain point, you know what I mean? Because we're behind, because we didn't do it street. Thank you.
No, this year we did. Last year,
The last year you did. Okay.
or on every other year.
Not every other.
to save up the money, yeah.
Try to get it up around $1 million, so it's worth putting up.
So he put some new numbers up for 55%, Jason.
Yeah, so 55%, first year would be 775, and then per household, then it would jump to 1201, and then it would jump to 1861, and then after that, it would
3%.
move on to whatever the inflationary mechanism. So it'd be 3%, could be 2%, it could be 8%, however you choose to do that.
Brian,
What was my?
the weight.
Just discussing.
Oh, fuel.
Oh, inflation. Do we know, so inflation, if you tie it to the inflationary piece, it's not 3%.
No.
I just want to make sure that we're all in agreement that is probably after we get, if that's the case, when we go to 1861, then that's a hydraulic piece every year after that.
This is gonna allow you to not have to go every other year, correct? If we do what we're talking about. Because the streets are falling apart, they're not gonna get better.
Well, we just added a whole bunch of new streets with all
The alleys,
We're getting more and
Oh,
more straight.
Don't talk to me about Alex.
The alleys-
live on an
The alleys will
listen.
be,
and
they'll
we're
be there
getting,
for another 15
and we're getting
years.
more streets, so this is gonna help with, okay. So the 3 trifecta,
But we don't know, it could be 5, the number could be 5, we don't know if it's 3%.
But if we do 5 years and we're also upping the gas tax and we're also upping the business license, I'm less worried about the has to be 2 or 3, 5 years to me, that's more acceptable. So we're really, covering everything at that point.
You can propose that one.
Is the PCA different for businesses, did you say, Brian? That they're charged a little bit different
They-
than household?
Yes, the businesses are charged differently. Jason kind of was talking about that for you, but I don't know what that formula would look like, so it's,
Yeah,
parking
so.
spot, square footage of the parking lot.
So how those numbers originally were created, the $5 was created was, they took the trip calculation and a standard household generates X number of trips based on, usually a 2-person, like 2-car household. And so that the CPI was like, okay, it's $5 per household. Rather than doing a calculation per the size and driveway square footage of each house. So that's why for houses, apartments, trailers, double wides, different things like that, because they're done different, like an apartment pays less, a trailer, mobile home pays less. That's how those numbers were fixed. And then it was decided for businesses, they will go off of the trip calculation, which was the 50 some odd cents per trip. And so I think we had done, and I don't have any of that info with me, but Jerry and I had looked at it, and we looked at like some churches, some small, some medium and large businesses, and had what they sort of paid. And so there is, through the finance department, there would be a way to sort of do an aggregate average to say that if you increase it by 45%, 55%, 35%, whatever, what that would look like for a category of businesses.
That was one of the questions from last meeting. That was to give an example, because I feel like Fred Meyer kept coming up, and Matt's like, oh yeah, I have more employees probably with Fred Meyer, but the bill might be the same or something like that. But I'm not saying it's gonna get numbers.
We missed that.
Because I mean, it could be, I could be, I don't know what you guys charge, so I'm not, I just think it could be a big, huge increase for that. Like it could be, yeah. $1,500 to, you
Well,
know,
with Fred Meyer-
$2,750, like, I mean, it's.
With Fred Meyer, it would be different because that is a plaza of businesses. And so so in an apartment complex, the tenant does not get the bill from the city for their fee. It goes to the landlord and then they, or the firm or whatever, and then they parse it out however they see fit. My suspicion is for plazas like that, it goes to the management company and then they parse it out to each one of the businesses based on their square footage.
So I think that's why Matt was kind of looking into the price to see how much he pays, but actually, I don't know if he leases or if he owns the building, so.
So it would be,
If he leases it, then you probably wouldn't know.
I cannot volunteer the city for,
Caruso?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I cannot volunteer the city for anything, but it would not be unreasonable to be able to pick like a certain number of different businesses and then say, on average, they paid this much, and so if you increase it by X percentage, this is how much it would jump.
Just be nice.
Can we-
That's what discussing I thought was gonna be.
Yeah.
Can we have remind me, where's the current funds coming from today that funds this?
The street maintenance program?
Yeah.
It's coming from the fees that are charged to the houses and to the businesses, and also the gas tax.
So not property taxes or anything like that?
No, there is a certain, Jerry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's a certain amount of money that comes into the general fund that is from various taxes and stuff, which goes into public works for things like that, but the lion's share, but the street maintenance, in our budget, the street maintenance program is its own thing, and all the dollars that come in from this, that, minus the administration fee of doing the billing and stuff for it, are all separated in our budget, so you can see exactly how much that generates.
And I don't want to get into the weeds or anything, but we use this for just between the curbs, and federal and state laws require us to do ADA improvements. So for $1 million of paving, it's like $200,000 worth of concrete work we've got to do, that we pay for out of gas tax. And that's what I was thinking,
I
Jason.
forgot about that.
So we use that gas tax money that pays our wages and all that to pay for that stuff outside of the curb. So the more, that's why that gas tax would be nice to go up, like what Brian's talking about, because you raise that, we gotta do more ADA ramps. We are getting caught up on them, because we paid everything, but if they change it, so that's another thing to think of. So we use that gas tax for street maintenance. It's just ADA improvements to go with the paving. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we've discussed this. Do we need to kind of come to an agreement on
Recommendation.
can I make a recommendation? And then you guys can all tell me yay or nay? Sure. So it still comes back to the three things then: raising the business license, raising the tax to,
5 cents.
do you have something to share?
He's harassing
Are you
me.
raising it by 2 cents?
No, I have an idea.
Two. Do 5 cents from 3.
Are you, for the business license, did you want to go up to 100 or 150? What were you?
Well, I'd say, we'll talk about that, 150, 100. So $100 on the business license, go to 5 cents on the gas, and then raise this. And so there's your three,
By a schedule.
and by a schedule of whatever we decide to agree on, 45% or 55%. And there's the three recommendations I'd make.
We will calculate whatever the committee needs.
Perfect.
Calculation.
Perfect. But that would be my recommendation, but now we're open for discussion on that. Yes.
So I agree with that. If we're gonna do, I personally, I would love to see the 55% option, but maybe spread out over 5 years instead of 3. Because we're taking aggressive steps in with the slices and the gas tax and everything, and that is aggressive, which is great. But just break it up just a little bit more, kind of get, I don't know, I think it could use a little bit more time. on
Tweaking,
that, yeah.
okay.
If we do the 55% option.
So I'm gonna crunch some numbers. Do you wanna see,
Personally, I wouldn't wanna go more than 5 years, because at that point, it feels like it's just.
so you wanna see what it would be?
4 and 5.
4 and 5
So year 4 would be 2886.
at the 55%.
Yeah.
So you wanna do 55% increase for 5 years, not 3?
Spread out.
Spread
over
out, so
5
Okay.
years, so
less
not-
per.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's a different, that is, okay.
Spread out over what it looks like to break it down.
So you don't want to do 55% a year.
So you wanna,
And advertise.
to crunch the numbers, do you want to say our base would be the 1350? And then we go from there?
Yes, whatever you use to
Okay,
get those.
let me
numbers.
crunch some numbers here, bear with me.
Yanni, where are you at?
I like what you're doing. I like the 3 options.
Question.
Brian?
Thank you.
Oh, excuse me.
I think you should share.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
yeah, this part of, not to,
No, that's fine.
But so I think we should just, I mean, my suggestion would be to get it to $7.46, like immediately, as soon as possible. And then
And then
gradually,
build off
then
of
take
that.
the percentage to get us to 13.43 within 3 or 5 years. Probably 3 is what my suggestion would be. So if you're doing 7.46, you're basically bumping it 50%. Yeah. And then take it from 7.46 to 13.43.
You might have to rerun your numbers.
Fine.
Full please.
But we're all in agreement on the 3.
I am.
Because I understand the 45% is $5 to $7.25.
Yes.
What if we just went from $5 to $7.46 and then took the percentage from $7.46 to 13
On
to
to the
3, yeah, within the next 3 years.
So I guess my question would be, after 3 years, what number would you like to be at?
That's what I like about that trajectory, is it gets us past the 1343 to get us in a better position to have better.
Okay, let me just continue what I'm doing here.
Did you have something you want to add now?
Sure.
Okay.
Jerry. Based on the pavement condition index, looking at next fiscal year, how many roads, starting next year, how many roads to keep us or get to, how many roads are below PCI of 80? Do you know off the top of your head? Like how many miles?
I could look. Ballpark, how many miles?
Yeah.
30,
30 miles
centering miles probably. I
that
don't know.
are below the 80.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wow.
And they're like the stuff, I'm just now starting to, Brian, overlay stuff that I've already overlaid. Because they get more, it's so hard to calculate, like, no, it's like Sequoia Parkway and you'll see, Brian, why I'm having to get creative, I don't have the money.
Yeah.
You see his crack ceiling,
Yeah.
Jason knows how much that, he was so excited, and no one sees that stuff, but that saves these roads and story seal. I have to do it because I don't have money. And so, but I can get you exact where we're at on roads with PCI if you need it on percentages, but
So how many road miles ballpark for me, spitball it, do we have that are below 70? Because those are obviously, those under 70 are what you're gonna focus on first. I'm not worried about the 70, 80. Where are we at there below 70?
Here, we have this one.
Yeah.
Right here. Let's make sure, I don't look at this. So. Our arterial factors and residential is showing a percentage and average PCI.
It is the same exact calculations as the street maintenance fee. Like they literally took, when they wrote the park maintenance fee, they literally copied word for word in the code, what was set up for the street maintenance fee, but just substituted street maintenance for park maintenance.
But it's gone, there's an inflation,
That's-
there's an
But that
inflation.
is tied to inflation from when it
That's
started.
what I was saying.
Yes, sir.
It's-
Right. I'm not answering your
No,
question.
you're giving me, well, because here's what I'm thinking. So if we're going to this point where we're doing a 55% increase to this amount, then we're making it inflationary, and then we're going from 50 to 100, or 50 to 100 and then 150 on the business license.
100.
Just to 100, okay.
So, yeah, we're just.
So 50 to 100,
I
and
think
then we're looking at gas, like, at some point, and based on what you just shared with me, my theory goes out the window in that we know that we need to spend, about $2 million a year to work on getting us front to good. Be in that good range, correct? So my piece being then, is there a point where we get more collected than what we're going to spend, where, there's a carryover every year because we only needed to do 2 million, because that's all that we've got in that 60 to 70 range, or, right, we're gonna tackle those that are 30 to 40, again, strategy, I'm not sure, but I'm looking more down the road going, is there ever a point where we get to having a yearly cash carryover because we've collected, enough to cover and then prepare for the next year?
We're so far behind that you just said 30 miles.
Well, you guys look at Second Avenue over there by Pacific Pride. I just had to review that and I paid that 9 years ago.
That's because of the bus traffic.
And trucks,
And
everyone going to
trucks.
Pacific Pride, and you look at
Yep, and it's
Sequoia
all-
Parkway, I've overlaid it, it's getting ready to have to need it again. You let it go too far and it gets road base, deep base repairs, all that.
So I guess my question is, when you say 30 miles, which I get that we're asking an estimate kind of on the fly. When you say 30 miles, do you mean one full street both ways, 30 miles, or
We have
1 mile,
Of street.
2 miles?
We have 70 miles of highway. So
So it's broke up.
it's so hard to calculate right now. I mean, I could get those numbers. I could go back through every road I have a rating on. It'd be pretty easy to figure that out. And that's what we work off of. And right now it's been easy because of the pothole forms. It's on the list. And that's where we've been working on. You'll notice that, like Territorial down there, Second Avenue, that trumps another road that needs it. So right now, we are just trying, and we're not at 75 anymore. We're below that now. If I did the other thing that, not to get into the weeds again or anything, but I just got software for our street sweeper that we are gonna be able to track. He runs the roads every day. We're gonna be able to find exactly what's going on our roads and keep up on it. And so we're trying to get more efficient. So doing some stories still, even though people don't like it, on the hard to get spots like Second Avenue. And then crack sealing is huge. And then I went to a softer oil. So you notice how the roads are breaking in the center? They won't do that anymore. All the new stuff, and no one's going to this. We're the only ones that have done it. And it's made a big difference over the last 4 or 5 years. The stuff we started with, that they're going off ODOT spec, which is not made for residential roads. So we're getting more efficient, and with this street sweeper, we'll be able to track these roads and have all of this in, Brian, I'll be able to give you this information with this.
What kind of information are you collecting on this piece?
It's telling how unraveled it is, what the it takes the whole street by GPS, and it's AI that monitors the street and it rates it. So every time the sweeper goes over that, it spits out what that street's rated at. It's awesome technology, and we got it for free right now to try it out, see if we like it, and then we're gonna budget for it, buy it if it works. And then I'll be able to come back with even more accurate. I was hoping to have this done before you guys have your recommendation, have it so that I could go to the, when you guys have your recommendation, I could even go and have more information to council when it gets there. That's my goal. But not to get you guys away from your recommendation.
No,
but
that's fine.
That's
That
good
helps.
to know.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
slick.
It's our biggest thing is to, and people say our roads are bad. We got great roads. You go through other cities, you know, I mean, you can look at Westland, they have $13. I mean, it shows.
But you guys stay on top of it.
We stay on, we get we don't waste any, and
Yeah.
the other thing is it's not 670,000 we're spending on roads at that $5. It's closer to 800,000 because we gotta do all the ADA improvements, so there's more coming out of
So you
that.
get gouged for that. Jason, do you have something?
So here's the numbers that you were looking at. So what I did this time was I took, right now we're at $5. I took the $13.50 is where we would like to be currently, and I did a 4% inflation increase over the course of 5 years, which would put us at $16.42. If you did a 30% increase over 5 years, you would be at $6.50 year one, $8.45 year two, $10.98 year three, $14.28 year four, and $18.56 year five, which is well over what we were looking for, or you were looking for. If you do a 25% increase, it's $6.25, $7.81, $9.76, $12.20, and $15.25, which is under that. So whether you choose to do 30 as a round number, or if it was 28% or something, you could narrow down what this percentage would be. But this gives you a range of between a 25 and a 30% increase over the course of 5 years to capture where we would like to have been right now, plus a 4% increase over time.
But what number are we gonna increase for year one? We're gonna go ahead and say we're gonna bump it to 13.50?
No, so right now so we would say starting year one, you would increase everything by 30%. So it would jump to $6.50. And then year two, you do the 30% and it would jump to $8.45, so on and so forth. Now, to bring up a concern of Council President Hensley's, is that when a government gets used to collecting a certain amount of tax, they are usually very reluctant to give that up, okay? Now, if you put in your recommendation that this is your recommendation and the city council approves it, then they should follow your recommendation. We are currently going into an election cycle. We will see how this council pans out. If you did this over a 5-year period, this would end in a year without a council that essentially is mostly voting on it.
Mhm.
So if you did it in a 3-year period, you'd pretty much be guaranteed to have at least most of the people that voted on it originally to still be the people in power when the decision goes to taking it back to letting it do its thing. That's just that.
Did you get a picture, Jerry?
No, I'm going to.
And I yelled those numbers out so that way Brianna could hear them, because she can't see it.
Bet she's got that screen to her next better.
What are your thoughts, Brianna?
I appreciate that very much, Jason. Thank you. I appreciate the 3-pronged approach. I think the considerations of how much we are raising things in light of folks having to pay more for everything else as well. We're seeing the housing crisis here as much as anywhere else. So I do think those things should be considered. But overall, I think you are all on the right track with recommending more than one mechanism and attaching the inflation percentage to it over time. I think you guys are on the right track there.
Jason,
What I will throw out, and I hope that I'm not overstepping my bounds when I say this, regardless of what the recommendation of this group is, I will be an advocate for making this a more permanent group. So that every 3 to 4 years, this group meets to track progress of what's being done, have changes now overstepped the mark? Are we still short? Because it's going to take some time to really see how this pans out. And so that will, you are welcome to make that as a recommendation as a group, but whether it is or isn't, I will be advocating for that.
I was just gonna say that would be, if you would all like that idea of baking it into the recommendation would be great.
Meeting how often, Jason?
I think every 3 years would be reasonable.
If we did every 3 years, if we did stick with it, you know, if we did the 3 years or 5 years, it's a really good check-in point to see after 3 years how everything's going, how it's feeling. Because we have a very current pulse on it. If we were to stick with the 3 year fee schedule.
well, I think we're closing in on,
I do too.
we're in a good spot, I think we're closing in and we all agree on this.
I don't think there's any argument about
No,
the three legs of it, more so the schedule for the increase on.
it's just coming up with this now, and then we can really, we're getting closer to making a recommendation to the council then. As soon as we can agree on this,
I'm
right,
just,
Jerry?
yeah, I'm really excited about how you guys want to formulate this. This really surprised me. This group, I thought it would be more.
I just love to see the numbers for, like, yes, we have residential, but commercial and stuff like that, small businesses. Because I feel like, I mean, for me, at least it will help me make a more informed decision on that sort of timeline schedule.
Okay, so you're requesting we see like what Fred Meyers is paying or like Taskforce,
Or like Columbia
Or
Distributing.
Columbia
or
Distributing.
Yeah, some of the bigger businesses, some of the smaller, just so we have a spread.
okay,
Because it obviously it'll affect, even the big guys will feel it too. But I'm more concerned with those small businesses.
so,
I think having a perspective of like which, which shopping center is the bigger, I think it's the Fred Meyer one's the
Yeah,
bigger one.
Yeah,
So what are they paying?
Yeah.
Safeway.
And
Yeah,
then,
so-
then we get a viewpoint, and then the biggest industry ones out in the industrial park are gonna, right now is Columbia.
Yep, yeah.
And then they're going to kind of scale from there, but then also, what does 99E like downtown, what are some of the businesses in those sectors paying?
Yeah.
As a perspective piece.
That's what I would love to see.
okay,
Oh,
One thing that I would be requesting as this counselor when this comes, so I will throw this out here as something I would be curious about, is there's been an interest in capturing pass-through folks. And one of the things that was mentioned, that I seem to remember being mentioned, that's not on this list, is some sort of surcharge on like speeding tickets and things like that. And oftentimes those folks are the ones that are just driving down 99E and passing through town. And so I would be curious as to adding some sort of surcharge on, like tickets from Canby PD would look like.
So that's a fourth.
Revenue stream.
Was that brought up last time?
It was.
How much would you recommend increasing,
It's on.
adding on?
As a fee,
Yeah,
like,
2%, 2%.
oh, it wouldn't be a percentage, it'd be
$8.
it'd be like 250 or something along those lines.
and then do we know how many tickets are?
What's the breaking point on the administration of that though? We're collecting $2.50 per ticket, but how much does it cost the county to figure out where it all goes?
You like the idea of that?
I've also been known to speed on occasion.
Hey, speed,
Street
get better
maintenance,
streets.
It's entirely up to you. If you'd like, I'm just
I-
throwing that out as something for y'all to think.
I like the solid 3 options that we picked, because I know we know how to proceed on those, and that to me, although I do in theory like the idea of it, seems like a heck of a lot more like to push through, whereas these are known to me, and and again, speaking for myself, these are known to me, and I feel like there's a kind of a clear cut way through to
Okay.
implement that.
I still like to explore the Clackamas County, the fairground and all
The
that.
events.
Yeah, I mean, having a surplus of even $1.50 for a ticket, I don't think that's very unreasonable. And that's a good revenue stream right there. I don't know how we explore that, but I feel like we need to.
Tracy kind of did that.
I already got the ball rolling, so we'll
Yeah.
see if it's possible.
So I think we could revisit that one and the tickets.
I mean, to be honest with you, you guys can meet as much as you want. I mean, you get these numbers, it can come up at the next meeting, this is your ball of wax.
Yeah,
Brian,
What if,
Mr. Mayor.
instead of just speeding, what about just a surcharge on all moving violations?
That was what I was talking about.
red lights, everything.
Red lights, speeding, stop sign, cell phone, all of it.
Yeah, don't segregate it out.
Yeah,
$5 extra.
I don't personally feel targeted.
Well,
so-
yeah, thank you.
Judge can't eliminate it. It's gotta be,
Don't speed through our town.
right.
All those tickets, let me ask on a side note, all those tickets, that revenue goes where?
General fund.
General fund. And that helps to fund the police department and everything, okay?
yeah, this would be a set fee that would be designated, similar to what's on the thing, similar to what it would be the increase in business licenses, saying this is specifically for street maintenance.
Yeah.
This would be specifically for that. And I think in the last monthly report that we got as a council, in like last month, the police wrote like 160 tickets total or something along those lines. So it would be,
I was gonna ask that. What's the revenue a year on tickets?
it's in the budget.
What's the revenue a year on the tickets?
Oh.
From the police department?
Oh, jeez.
I'm sure you said 160.
I thought it was like 100 and some odd. It was in
Traffic tickets.
just tickets in general, yeah. Citations.
I think they do jaywalking too.
Crosswalk stands.
Tickets per month.
19, 20.
So we're kind of thinking, let's get some more information and have another meeting.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah.
So do you want to go, Teresa, over the questions and what we need to provide for you guys for the next meeting?
That,
Yes,
one more
yes.
thing, there seems to be a lot of concern with regards to, the cost
Just
on the
under $400K.
residents of Canton, right? A lot of concern on that. And so therefore, would it not make sense to go ahead and follow through the survey to see what the community would set? So I feel like we're gonna go after this and we're gonna make some decisions and there's gonna be a lot of upset people, and if we fall short, we're gonna have to keep doing this. So don't we wanna get a pulse from the community on where they're at? It doesn't need to delay it, but there seems to be a lot of consensus in this room that there's a lot of concern.
That's what I'm trying to,
Okay,
because if I'm interested,
I agree.
I'm gonna say, no, I don't want any, I mean, I'll answer, hell no, you're not raising anything, I don't, you know what I mean?
You can't read my point. You're not gonna please everybody.
Exactly.
And yet, when we make recommendations, people in this room are poo-pooing it because they don't want to piss people off. At the same
Right.
time, you're saying, well,
If that's what I'm saying, if you put it to a survey, I would imagine most people are gonna say, no increase.
I think most people in general are gonna say no anyway.
Yes, so that's why
So-
trying to have a,
It's
Watch the
we're
roads
gonna have to
fall
make some hard decisions
Right.
here.
right,
And I think we have to do what we have to do to
Yeah.
get Jerry his money and to fall within.
that's what I'm saying, I think
And
we're taking
we've
a
fallen
good-
way behind already.
Right.
Yeah, I think trying to have I think it's being acknowledged that different folks are coming in with different struggles and different limitations and all of that, and trying to, and that's what we have to nail down, which I don't feel comfortable doing until we have the bigger, number sense for businesses, is trying to make it meet the mark that we need, while trying to not be super aggressive and just all of a sudden, hey, use a new fee. And I think we're doing that.
Well, and these people that have moved in from Portland and all these other places
Yeah.
are being far higher than.
Where we're at,
I
yeah.
just, we're gonna be falling short. I don't know, not even sure this is gonna get us where we wanna be, is what I'm saying, if we look at the dollars associated.
Jason.
I would just say, one of the things that I mentioned last time, and I will impart upon this group again, is that I'm encouraged by the metered approach, because if the citizens were to get agitated by a change, they do have the ability to force this to a vote.
Thanks for bringing that up. We can lose it.
And it could very easily fail.
Right.
And then there would be no program at all.
There was a city councilor once said about the only thing that people will vote yes for is free pizza and free beer.
Pretty much.
So
That's true.
it's a tough call, I
It
get
is.
it, and it's not an easy one, and I think to your point, Danny, based on where we're at now, and these numbers are older, we could be looking at different numbers there
Mhm.
in terms of like is it really, starting at 55% to get us to that 18?
Hence why the other two prongs, though.
Oh, I get that, for
Bring
sure.
that up again.
And I think when the group initially met, we were in a very similar situation where they had all sorts of modeling, but we really did not have any clue how much it would end up generating.
Mhm.
And I think when it first came out, I was like, wow, it's really bringing in that much. And so that's why I think if this group either recommended that they meet in 3 years, or say we've made this big change, we recommend every 3 years, but we really would like to meet in 1 year after this, after a year of this happening, to see how it's tracking based on what we had planned. I think that would be great.
I think 3 years is too long.
You can recommend whatever you want.
I would recommend another meeting in a month. So that some homework can get done, and I think we should just.
Well, are you talking about for this, like?
For this
body?
meeting.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm
No,
talking
no, I
about
know.
future.
And I'm thinking a year, every year, to
Mhm.
kind of keep up on it, so it does not get far behind.
Well, it depends on what the plan is that we.
Exactly. Well, this has to happen first, and then we can get there.
So list of questions then? for next
Yeah,
time?
if we can get our list of questions and get a meeting
Okay.
scheduled, that's
Yep.
on our next meeting is discussion. So the discussion, we're gonna go over the questions. And then we'll schedule the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So do we have questions?
Yeah.
And Rhonda has on her notes to get prices for, Rhonda, what did you have?
Safeway,
Or
Taskforce,
I got like Columbia,
Yeah,
Fred Meyer,
yeah.
stuff like that.
A little sampling from the bigger business models.
Right, the
and
larger
smaller
ones and then the medium ones
Yes.
that, I guess I could also look at like employee sizes.
Mhm.
Sometimes you go down on First Avenue, there's like 1 or 2 employees.
Right.
Where you might get one that's maybe got 6 or 7,
Mhm.
and then you got the multitude of like Stanton,
Yeah.
Columbia, Fred Meyer and stuff like that. And I realize that Fred Meyer is a large complex.
Yeah.
And it's got different things.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's what I was gonna look into, something like that. Okay, and that's where you guys wanna,
I just wanna know how it's gonna impact the businesses.
correct, on how
Yeah.
each one, if they're small,
Mhm.
it's gonna go up like $20.
Yeah,
If Fred Meyer or Columbia goes up by 3,000.
yeah,
Something along those lines, and then, yeah,
that's what I, that's
I'll
what.
see what I can do on my side,
Mhm.
and then I guess that'll have to
We'll
go.
get with the
for
finance
The
department.
finance
Yep.
department, yeah.
Eileen,
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if you are recommending this 3-prong approach, you might like take them, if the first prong is increase the business license. What questions do you have about that? What questions do you have about the gas tax? What questions do you have? Just to kind of categorize it, so it's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I like that. I don't have any questions about the first two, really just the last one.
Okay.
For me.
Just want to make sure that there weren't any questions that anyone.
If you think of specifics too, you have our email.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
so should we just go around and have, Laura, do you have any questions?
I'm just gonna clarify on the gas tax, that's strictly for ADA kind of stuff? for
And
concrete,
wages
That's outside of
It bought
curb to curb,
the
correct?
cookies and
It
stuff
could be
tonight.
used for curb to curb.
It can be, it's
We'll buy
less
our dinner next
restricted.
time.
than this.
Okay.
We can use it for wages, we can use it salaries, striping, sidewalks,
I did not know about all that.
the gas.
I knew about the ADA ramps, but I did not realize that they're using the gas tax for, because originally the gas tax and the street maintenance fee were just supposed to be curb to curb.
Yeah.
And then the problem was, because the city had gotten to a point, the ADA ramps had to be done before the curb to curb could be done. And so I was told that the gas tax was being used for those ADA ramps.
So we didn't get any federal help or anything for that type of stuff?
That was an unfunded lawsuit.
Yeah.
And we have
Salem.
gotten CDBG funds from the county to do a lot of that stuff that have worked out that we've done in paving schedules to get, like, if you look at all the ADA improvements over there, you know where the wedding church is over on Third?
Yes.
That whole region of town, the county gave us block grant money and we did all the ADA improvements with that grant money and then we paved it. So we didn't have to use gas tax. So whenever we can get that money, we do that to
Okay.
help with this.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think, we need to come up with more revenue streams. If we want to flatten some of this stuff. And right now we have 5: business tax, gas tax, business license, gas tax, PCI increase, moving violation, flat fee, and then maybe the county event fee. The only thing I'm thinking is it's gonna piss people off, but property taxes, if there's a small piece of that goes.
Okay.
You know, can't do that.
The can't use property taxes, that's why the county's in such a pickle, we can't use property tax for streets.
Okay.
Plus,
Everything's siloed.
And I'm on those conversations.
so
Yeah.
it's robbing the general fund.
I see.
So you're.
Oh, yeah.
effectively
See, Florence, what you
subsidizing-
think? Oh, fun.
It's the part of, right, we're a service industry, where we don't provide a product, like a physical, like for sale product. I mean, unless we did like bake sales, should we just do bake sales?
Yeah,
You can sell cookies.
fundraisers every year.
Lemonade stands.
Yeah.
You know, at city events and things like that. Dunk tanks,
Well,
dunk tanks for
We have a
romantic.
dump tank
Oh,
market, okay?
Sorry.
so do we want to broaden from the 3 to 5 now? Is that what I'm hearing?
Before we just answer that,
Okay.
how do you think that would go over with the council? If we come to you guys with 3+, step, is that gonna be seriously
A three-pronged
considered?
approach?
Yeah,
I
or
think that's
3 to
fine.
5.
It'd be 5.
5.
From 3 to 5.
Well, we have 3 nailed down,
3 nailed down for
Three nailed
sure,
yeah.
but potential for up to
But
5.
I think more options is better than asking every household to 20 and more, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure the council's not gonna look at it and be like, no, you're pulling from way too many.
But this one that you're tapped into, the event center stuff is kind of a whole nother,
Well, that's a
That's
question
a
mark.
whole process, yeah.
okay, but, so then that's gonna kind of be on the side, so 4.
That's a TBD, and then
Yeah.
the moving violation, it's
Sure.
really TBD.
That
too. I
can
don't-
kind of,
So I can tell you, as a counselor, that short of you coming to the city council meeting and giving us these recommendations in a flaming bag of poop, I am going to vote for this. I have wanted this for many years.
Where you at, Tracy?
So I am wholeheartedly, I love the fact that you're looking at different funding streams.
Sure.
I will say that when it comes to one of the things that this group had talked about some time ago was let's at least do something now and then look at other things later. I think the 3 that you've put forward are really solid things that can be done now.
Yeah.
And, there might need to be some look into the other. The one I will say is I've had conversations with some folks about if we were to charge a ticketing fee in the city of Canby. And from what I understand, it would be a very big staff thing, because you aren't, like, for instance, with the Renaissance Fair, the Clackamas County Fairgrounds is not collecting the revenue or the tickets per person for the Ren Fair.
Right.
The Ren Fair is renting the fairgrounds from the Clackamas County
Right.
Event Center, and then they're using Eventbrite or whatever to then do that. So there would have to be some sort of administrative agreement with the fairgrounds or whatever, saying if you are an event that is occurring and you are selling a ticket, the city of Canby is levying this thing, and then there would have to be someone on staff that would have to track all that down and work with all those different paid things. And so something like that, well, it is a very, it's an interesting idea. I think it's something that's it would take some time to flesh out.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So this is just, like, we're just basing this all off residential. Do we know how many residential, what would you call them, units that are actually getting the $5 street fee? Like, how much is this gonna go up by if we're not including the businesses and other places like that? Because we're just very focused on residential.
We can ask our finance department to, that could be one of the questions
Yes.
of pulling out exactly what the residential is, and they might even, I'm sure they'd be able to say, this is what single family homes, this is what apartment complexes typically pay.
Yeah.
And we could add that to those
Yeah,
questions.
I think that would be.
This is not just capturing residential. We are using the residential as our like easy math thing, but if it's 30%, it is 30% for the program across the board. So apartments, trailers,
Whoever.
homes, businesses, everything would see a 30% increase or whatever that
I
is.
do get that. I'm just curious how much residential compared to the others. Yeah. How much income the residentials are actually generating.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How much of the 670,000
So
houses are
yeah.
bringing in, how much is, okay.
Does a month for another meeting give you enough time to gather the information? That's a lot of work. I mean, that's your call.
Some of that is.
Well, how long it
dependent
would
on our-
take, I mean.
No, like residential.
It would be dependent upon its apartment, so
Right.
like,
Right.
information that we can kind of pull together is, there's certain stuff that we can do, but some of that, like how much the breakdown of the street maintenance fee, that would be something we'd have to ask our finance department to do, so it would just depend on their.
So then
workload.
Rhonda, you can send out another survey mounting then, I guess, when you feel like.
I mean, I can send one out like tomorrow or sometime next week, and then hopefully by the time that we all, you guys all agree, I could get that word out. All agree on what a great date is, then I think hopefully by that time, the finance department, because this is most of them pulling the information out of their, programs.
Okay.
So hopefully that somebody along the lines out of those guys can do that, at least give us that portion of the information.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not understand how the dang survey monkey, whatever the heck it is, works.
I
So
don't like it.
is
I'm gonna try to find a different one that's much easier.
Well, so that's my question is,
Okay.
the highest voted day, is
Mhm.
that the day we're, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was thinking we vote and then there'd be like another notification
Oh,
goes out that says this is your
yeah.
day. So I was like, great, I voted, and then I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, that's great, and then I get a, hey, you weren't there, and I was like, well, now, wait a minute, hold on a
You were
second.
on the wish.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I just
okay,
had
good.
no
I-
idea
Yeah.
that's how that
Yeah,
works.
so she was on the survey monkey thing,
Yeah.
but apparently she was not on the calendar invite.
Okay,
So I have no idea, we actually
okay.
picked the
So
day.
we missed you, but
Yeah,
yes.
so that, because I was available, but I didn't know it was happening, so I was
Gotcha.
like, well, that's
Well, I'm not
fine.
gonna miss you now, because
perfect.
now I've got,
Yeah, you
I've got
locked
everything
in
now,
there.
yeah.
So that solves that, and that's easy.
One
Yes,
more,
Danny.
one more question. I just, I'm a numbers guy, and I'm looking at what our goal here, 1.8 million a year, and I guess, Jerry, is it our goal, is the purpose of this committee to come up with $1.8 million of revenue by year? Is that what our ultimate goal is?
It depends on what you want our roads to be at. If you want them at an 80,
That's where we need to
Right.
be at.
you need 1.8 million.
So that, what do you ask for? What would you like to see? What do we need it to be? Because I feel like if we don't hit 80, we're always gonna be playing catch up.
On a public works design standards, or public works crew, if you drop below 75, the roads, we start having structural failure. So you look out there where you have base failure, I gotta start digging up the asphalt, digging up the road base and fixing
More
it
money.
because it's below 75. You start losing money because of that.
So So the goal of this committee to get us to an 80 or better, which is gonna be $1.8 million.
Yeah.
Just off the math that I've been doing tonight, we're not even close to $1.8 million. So isn't it our goal or our responsibility to come up with revenue that's gonna get us to 1.8 million? I mean, otherwise, we're just playing catch up, and we're just gonna be throwing mud at the wall.
Yeah, just to go off that, my input on that, if you get us like a 75, that's a 75 across an average of our roads. We got 40s down there and we got 90s. So if I could get all the roads, every road to a 75, I would be one happy guy. The 80, you know, to get every road to a 75, which is good, would be awesome for me. That's more realistic to keep it at a 75, in my opinion.
Well, I think from a budget standpoint.
From a budget, but give, you know, you start raising everyone to 13, 15 bucks and.
Well, it'd be a combination of the.
Yeah.
we're talking
things,
about,
right,
but-
Yeah,
But
but
I'm just
no,
saying, even with the combination that we were talking about, just doing the quick math, we're not close to 1.8.
No.
But if we do 1 million, then I think we can get there.
Well,
But
I'm,
also remember too, as we start to if we go with the stair stepping, which I think is probably the easiest way for the community to adjust to that, we're still we're not fully catching up. We're still still trailing, you know, a lagging indicator on where we're at with our roads. So, so right now, and these numbers are how old, Jerry?
2018.
So we're probably at 2 million.
Right.
In all honesty.
We're not at a 75.
No.
so I guess I'm curious the number. So like if I take the 670,000 at 3 points at $5 per month and do a 30% increase on that for the first year, it jumps up to 871,000. And then if you do another 30% on that, it jumps up to 1.132 million.
I'm talking about just a 1 year increase. I'm not talking about the feather approach like you're talking about. So to get us where we
Like
are.
bam,
Jump right
Yeah,
into
yeah,
it.
bam, right
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Get us where we need to be and then do the increases after that.
Right.
Which is one of the other options, is increase it to the 1343 now and then do the inflation increase. That just gives it
You get-
26 on.
You give me $2 million, I'll have this whole town shut down again.
You can pay our highway 99 next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I have, maybe not a question, but one of the things we could work on based on the information from our finance department, which maybe kind of helps for maybe the way that your brain is thinking about this, where we could create like an Excel spreadsheet that we could kind of manipulate in
Yes.
real time.
Yeah.
So we can, because this is super helpful.
Yeah.
It is.
And so it's like, if we knew all the numbers and what that added up to, and when I say all of the numbers, I mean, not the two unknowns, meaning the Clackamas County Fairgrounds and not necessarily the moving violations,
Yeah.
but those first three that we talked about that are all pretty real numbers and pretty much within the control.
Yeah.
Where we could say, if you increase the business license fee, even though that's relatively easy, you know, it's $50 to $100, but oh, what if we put it at 125 and that helps to balance,
That's
and
what
then we don't have to make this jump.
Right.
So
I agree.
that's something.
So we can see, and we can play and manipulate the numbers.
So we can,
That's what-
that's not a, I guess, a question for next time, but that would be
Yeah.
something I could.
When do the business license come out? Once a year?
I think in January, don't we?
Yeah.
No, they,
No, it's whenever,
No,
whichever month you.
Okay, so it's all different.
Yeah.
yeah,
Year to year, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Your next renewing
That makes
Right.
sense.
Okay.
Because if you initiate a business.
Right,
yeah.
I
We
think
just
that's
adjusted very long
really
ago.
super helpful.
Okay, so
Okay,
are we, you guys want to go off of Jamie's recommendation? Because I don't have, that would be my.
no, I think we need to do that.
We have to have that to help make
Okay.
informed decisions.
So,
And
so
I-
Rhonda knows what to put in there, basically put together an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can.
Either, yeah.
Yeah.
Three-pronged approach.
we can
That's
decide.
right, yeah, that's exactly
Okay.
what we would be using.
And I think the
as
next
numbers.
meeting, we can narrow down so much from that.
Right.
Yeah,
That'd be
I
great.
mean,
With
once we have our,
Right.
Can we
These
get
ones are
that in
more
mind?
hard,
Yeah.
hard case, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay.
On the two other three problems that we don't have answers on.
If we get this, these minutes out,
Yeah,
let's
that'd
just-
be great. Yeah.
we'll get them out real fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do the dual
Yeah.
full survey, we can also check with finance and make sure that we're not overburdened. I'll tell you, now is not what I have.
Well, I like to get it that way.
I like to, January rolls around for the budget audit. I'll tell you.
Okay, Rhonda will have these minutes out
Well,
fast.
and I can do the Excel spreadsheet once we get the numbers, once we.
Right, so
Okay.
that's what we need to do.
Yeah, so I, the kind of more
Yeah.
specific, I can do that.
It's not gonna be labor intensive for them whatsoever, it's just pulling the information out, so.
Okay,
I
Teresa.
totally went through it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yes, in my good.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah, where's your
We'll get you
Okay,
that.
I'm losing control. Okay, can I see that? So Rhonda, maybe you send out the survey link.
Some survey.
So maybe that first or second week in November.
So see how everybody likes that?
Do you need a month or do you need a month to get that?
Because then that's before, I mean, maybe we don't need a month, depending on how fast we can get the information and the questions answered. And then I would suggest, because then you're staying away from Thanksgiving, which is on the 28th of November. And then you've got December, which, you know.
And if you went into January, that'd be so easy for me.
Well, and then we have a new council.
Not
No,
upset.
I mean, I'm retiring at the end of the year. I am, thank you.
Okay, so then you can expedite.
I will.
Yeah, expedite. And then we'll have a meeting even before that if we need to. And then we may have a recommendation for the council that before the end of the year. So
Okay.
let's just try to.
I'll try the first or second week of November.
Yeah,
Okay.
First, yeah, that'd be great.
Yes. Because then
For all the
you have council meetings here this month.
Yeah, for sure, and then sometime.
So maybe even a recommendation on the fourth, December 4th.
I can make the 4th, 5th, I can.
Okay, so let's just shoot for that, even, yeah.
December 4th for the recommendation. I won't be able to be
No,
there,
I'm sorry.
but.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jerry can get up, he and Jamie can talk about it.
Yeah.
Clarify what you mean by recommendation.
To the council.
Oh, for December 4th?
Yeah, if we have that spreadsheet, we can narrow down.
Yeah, be much easier.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
So do we want to go over our questions real quick, make sure
Yes,
we got
please.
everything covered?
Yes.
Okay.
Got it all, Rhonda? I mean,
As
just-
far as I know, I mean, we're gonna try to do a spreadsheet over the business licenses, gas tax, and the PCI maintenance, which Jamie took a picture of. We're gonna mostly go on those three because we have hard numbers on them, which is good. Now, what I'm gonna be doing is trying to find out your information on 1 to 2 people on a business. I'm gonna look at 1 to 2 small, medium, and large businesses to try to get the information of what they pay. I can look that up personally and it's pretty easy. I can find 2 businesses, small, 2 medium, and then I get 3 or 4 large. Different types of things, so I can have that, so. And then I think Jerry was going to figure out, did you want road mileage, or road
Yeah.
miles, Brian? On what Jerry could give you, okay, so I got that one too.
Like average of miles that are
No,
under,
even
Right.
enough, like what you got there that you showed me, just
Yeah.
kind of,
okay,
each of those are curious, I mean, that whole grouping right there, where that averages out. Because I don't think we have any poor rated streets that I'm aware of. But where's fair, good, and, you know, I mean, we're excellent with being out 90/90 and,
that's easy.
yeah. Just, I mean, just,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the information the council's gonna wanna know.
Yeah.
Like, what will it take for, where are we currently, and what's it gonna take to get that average up?
Just to reiterate that, like, if our average is at a 75, that's the average across the whole. How many do we have and what roads are like under a 30 or that type of stuff? Okay,
Yeah, because I think that those are gonna be the ones that we wanna address first.
yep. And that's what I've been working off of. But yeah, I can do that.
Okay, and recommendation, this is really, really good. Thank you so much.
Oh,
And
yeah.
sandwiches next time. Just roll sandwiches, potato chips, salad.
Can,
You're right.
Can we pay for it on
None of us
shipping?
works on Friday.
A little more protein.
So sandwiches,
Yeah.
you guys
Just
will
do
put in your
little
order?
sandwiches.
Okay.
I'll make them if you want. I
Yeah.
mean, we've gotta get something, you know. We're over dinner, we're at dinner. So I'm making that recommendation.
Formal.
So anyway, that's okay. So are we good, Riley?
I heard just to kind of go back to this, I heard Laura, I think you mentioned, do we want to go up to a percentage or go up to a set dollar amount and then increase? So that was just a different, I didn't hear that.
We're gonna use the model first to assess what the income streams can be, so we can make some hypotheticals
Yeah.
to help better.
That'll be on the spreadsheet.
Right.
So
Yeah, I'll
maybe
keep that in
adjust-
mind though, like, oh, yeah,
Okay.
that's in my notes.
Yeah, I mean, once we
So,
get
yeah.
this in the spreadsheet, we can place that
Mm-hmm.
too, but.
Yeah, just like an initial increase and then figure out percentage after that to get it to a
Okay.
certain point, yeah.
So then, are we finished? Can I go to adjourn the meeting? Yes. I get it first.
You can second.
Second.
All
It's not debatable motion,
Oh,
we're good.
all right, thank you.
Jason?
You need a maker.
Undebatable motion.
I'm good.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Would you like to extend it?
Yeah, ready to make it.
Thank you very much, Brianna.
Bye, Brianna.
And I see all the valleys that are getting paved up a couple streets, and I'm like, well, that's great. Is my alley gonna be paved or is
Thank you
it
for
no?
this.
Because I was told it was covered by the city.
Urban renewal. Are you
Someone
in?
was told it was covered by personal.
It's, where do you live on?
So Cedar and Fourth, where they meet,